We are in Parshat, weekly Torah portion, Portion-Naso, and we're coming directly off. It's interesting how this parsha starts out, because we're coming directly off of Bamidbar, looking at the tribe of Kahat, who's going to have to carry all of the Holy of Holies when it's dismantled on their back, as it were. They're going to have to do that, as compared to the others. So that's why they were mentioned first, even though they're not the oldest. Now we come to this parsha, and we finally go in to Gershon, who is the oldest. So it's what?
The Levites.
He's the oldest son of Levi. Yeah, Gershon, Kahat, and Merari. That's how it goes. So it's in his introduction, a very short introduction. He says the chapter continues the task of assigning the Levite families to their respective responsibilities and counting them. The Kohatim had been counted before, and now the Torah goes to tell the other two families of Levi. Like I said, the reason we're hearing Kahath first was because he was taking care of the things in the Kodesh Kodashim, the holy, the hour, and so on and so forth. So, Vayomer, so it says, Vayedaber Hashem Moshe Moshe. So just to start off, it says, Hashem spoke to Moshe, saying, Naso, and that means again, lift up, or in this case, count, at Rosh B'nai Gershon, the head of B'nai Gershon, notice the sons of B'nai Gershon, Gamheim, also they, according to their house and their families. Rashi says, what I mean Gamheim? Why also they? So he says, just as I commanded you on B'nai Kahat to see how many there were, so that in order to come into the Avoda, that's what I'm telling you to do for Levi. So right for Gershon. So right away, what's the age group we're going to be counting?
Not for the Legion.
30 to 50.
30 to 50.
Because that's what we're looking at. And for the army, it was 20 to 60 for Bnei Israel. Yes? Right. Okay? For the entire census of Levi, unlike everybody else, it was from 1 month old. Once you stop, because before 1 month, there was child mortality. And so if you would die with it, well, I should say if it's born before the 9th month, normally, we want to make sure there's not a nafel, a baby who's going to die before 30 days old. And so once you leave that geder of 31, even now, by the way, God forbid the child died at 32 years old, 32 days old, he still would have been in that count. It's only 30, yeah. And I was, remember, you count it, you just have to make sure he gets past the 30th day. Yeah. And then once he's past that, so now you can count him. So if you had the census on his 32nd day or 31st day, you count him. And God forbid the guy died on the 32nd, he would have been counted in the census. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's after 30 days. But that's only for the census. Now we're looking for those who are able to carry the implements from the Mishkan. So that has to be from 30 to 50, because that is when they are in their strength mode. Before then, there's going to be another count that will say 25 to 30, but so 25, you go for 5 years to learn. It's a famous drasha that Rashi has, that if you've entered into service at 25, why do you need to enter service 25? Because that's when you're doing the apprenticeship. So in 5 years, you're supposed to learn everything so that you can carry into service properly.
So in other words, that of all of the Levium, that they really didn't undertake their assigned duties until 30.
Correct, but they had to go on 25 to learn how to do it. And that's what it's a famous statement from Chazal, that if after 5 years the student does not see success in his learning, he will never see success in his learning.
But today that would be moved down to a somewhat younger age, though. As you studying yeshiva, you already go to 17, 18 years old. After high school.
Well, what I'm saying is, this is talking about practical. I have to learn how to do it. If I don't know how to tie my box after 5 years of apprenticeship, if I don't know how to do the plumbing after 5 years of apprenticeship,
what do you call it? A journeyman, a master, whatever.
Whatever you want to call that.
Yeah, that's
you have 5 years. You have 5 years to learn.
Ever going to be then.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Right. So you have 5 years to learn. That's all you get. Oh, I mean, But that's what Rashi seems to be implying.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, in most unions, I think it takes like 5 years to become a journeyman.
Okay.
I think
Journeyman is you're the
that's the
top guy.
Now they're graduating from apprentice.
Okay.
In other words, that's where you're getting full salary and can go out on your own. And
See, for the rabbinate, you don't get 5 years. You get 3 seconds.
But you've had many years in yeshiva, though.
Yeshiva does
not
not
the
match up at
practical
all to practical. If the problem is, if I would go back to yeshiva, like YU or anywhere there where they have practical rabbinics, and I would say some of the stories, you would have kids sitting, the rabbinical students would be sitting in the room thinking,
I'm leaving.
No, they don't think that. They think that will never happen to me. Nah. And that's the worst thing to say. You listen to these stories and say, "Oh, that's the old days. This is no, we don't do that." And then they end up going to these places and they find out, "Oh my God, I should have listened. I should have heard those stories. Should have taken notes. What did he do?" Right. We always joked when we got out. And we were in the job for a couple of years. We always joked with each other that we should go back. We should go back and give the course. Because but nobody will believe you. Nobody will believe you. It's just the way it is. And it's until you actually get into the either pulpit or classroom or whatever it's going to be, you don't know what. You will not understand it until you do it. And it's that simple. It really is. It's the school of hard knocks. It's all it is. Because nobody can prepare you for Jimmy. It's just impossible. You think you know how to handle Jimmy. I don't know who Jimmy is. Jimmy is Plony.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, you came in just now.
Yeah.
Okay. But since you don't know how to really handle him, you have a book knowledge of how to do it. But until you've actually handled Jimmy a couple of times and had Jimmy and Jack and Johnny, and then finally the fourth one comes, you have a good handle on it and you know what you're doing. The question is, will you survive Jimmy, Jack, or Tommy, or whatever the names were I just gave? That's the question. Okay. So now again it says. He picks on one other thing too. Article. He says, it says in the previous passage, it says, "Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe," to Moshe, and he says, in the command to count and assign the Kohathite families, Aaron had been included with Moshe because the Kohanim had to prepare the sacred artifacts for the Kohathites to carry. Since the other Levi families went to the tasks without the prior intervention of the Kohanim, there was no need to include Aaron here. So here, that's why Hashem says to Moshe, you count. You don't need Aaron to make this count. Okay? Okay, then we go on. Like I said, mi ben shloshim shana from 30 years old and upward. Ad ben chamishim shana until the 50th year, you have, like I said, 20 years of service. Tifko to Tom, you will count them. Kol abalis votzava, all who come to join the legion, la'avod avoda, to do the service in the Olam Moed, in the tent of meeting. So that's what they have. They have a 20-year time, and that's it. After that, they do whatever they may sing, they may do something else, but their active service of breaking down, carrying the implements of the Mishkan will be ended, because like after 50 they're no longer strong enough, it says. Although you and I would disagree. At 50 years old, we're strong still, right? What's the big deal? Okay, but let's face it. From 30 to 50, there is a strength factor there, and when you hit 50, today we would say 40. Actually, today we would say at 40 you're already getting weaker.
Really?
And if you're not working out by 40, you're already going downhill. The old joke is your chest goes into your drawers. That's just furniture moving here. Chest. Okay. Okay.
This entire region's chest.
What?
Upper.
Your chest
Upper goes into your bottom.
Right.
Okay, all your strength falls down. Okay, that's at 40. We say that. So, but you see as you get older, you don't heal up as fast. when you were 28, when you were 20s, 18, something happened, you were back to working like this. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, the more older you get, the slower your body's taking to heal up. And it's one of the sad things of aging, I guess. But but at the same time, you start protecting yourself more. Who knows? I'm not sure if it's because we protect ourselves more, or it's really that the body is slowing down. I'm not quite sure. A doctor would probably say both.
Yeah.
I'm guessing he would say both. So what's their service? Zod avodah mishpachot Gershuni. This is the service of the families of the Gershuni, and that is la'avod ulamasa, to serve and to carry. Okay, to work and to carry. So what was that? So we're going to learn what they did. Fine. So it's v'nasu jiriyah the Mishkan. They would carry the curtains of the Mishkan, v'ed ohel moed, and the ohel moed. What is it? Wait a second. You said the ohel moed. What's that talking about? That's talking about. Rashi says the word izim, the goat skins that were made for the tent. In other words, the whole thing is called the ohel moed. That's Rashi's problem. It's all called ohel moed. So what do you mean they're going to carry the curtains and the ohel moed? It can't be. So they're carrying everything at that point. You understand? That's why Rashi has to say that doesn't mean that. It means a different part, the curtains, that the under curtains. Michseu, it's covering, u'michsei atachash, and the tachash coverings. He doesn't translate what tachash means. That was the multi-leveled covering. Some people say it was an animal only for that time. Some people say it was a different animal. We don't know what it was. So as a result, Mr. Art Scroll decides the better part of valor is to say tachash. Okay? And not get into it. I think some people call it antelope.
What was the old translation?
I believe antelope.
Really?
Antelope or ram, one of the two.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's interesting how we become afraid of these things. But what Rashi says back when we learned about this, tachash was a multicolored animal. But it was only there for that time, he says.
That's interesting.
So apparently it became extinct after this. What?
Multicolored like rainbow or multicolored like calico?
Multicolored like a rainbow or...
Like calico. Like calicos are usually a matching color, like black, brown, white. Rainbow, like blue and green and yellow and stuff like that, or what do you make?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I would guess it was more the
Calico.
Calico, you're saying?
Like a calico cat.
It could be.
Or they have different patterns.
But it would be stripes. It was stripes like a zebra.
Oh, okay.
It was like a zebra. I mean,
Maybe different. Another, instead of looking like a rainbow, where it's nice, even array of colors, to be multicolored, scattered around.
Well, again, it was striped. It says striped.
No, it did say striped.
It says striped. So it was like it's more like a zebra.
Zebra or tiger stripes. Only it'd be multicolored, so it's not so inconceivable. There might have been an animal like that, Who knows? I mean, it may not
again
rainbow colors,
right?
But still various shapes.
It doesn't say rainbow; it says striped.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. We don't know since it was an animal according to Rashi, and again from the Gemaras. So since it was an animal only for that time.
Yeah, we've had
who
animals.
knows? It could be a unicorn for all I know.
There's
also a unicorn that's mentioned in the Torah.
Even in modern times, we've had animals go extinct.
Yeah.
That we know about, and so so it's certainly.
By the way, that 1 second. It answers the question on extinction. By the way, because if the tachash was here only for that time, that's why Hashem created the tachash, so that after it's finished its purpose, so it no longer has to be here, which is that would answer extinction too. That once the animal is no longer needed, it disappears. The dinosaurs, whatever else. Assuming that there are no dinosaurs left in the world, we don't know that for sure either. What is it?
The Tasmanian tigers.
Tasmanian tigers say with tooth.
Tasmanian tigers went extinct in like the
There's
30s.
pictures of them.
They had like black and white videos of them.
But they could open they look like like Tasmanian devils.
Okay.
Or the other predator on Tasmania, but they open their mouths like really big.
Right,
cats open their
so how do we know they're extinct?
Because
not being able to find
anymore.
That doesn't.
Right. That's
A lack of knowledge. A lack of.
Right. That classification of this species is extinct.
Okay, but
But
I want you to know something. They called, this is just for all the people out there who think I'm nuts, okay? Yiddish was a dead language. It was on the dead list. It was like Latin. And yet, it's a living language. The Jews were on the death list. No, not from Hitler.
Right.
That also.
Different.
But we were also on the extinct list. Orthodox Jewry was totally on this. They thought we were dead.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay? And yet we're still here bouncing around and Baruch Hashem on the upswing. So extinction is really hard to determine.
Right.
Unless I've searched the entire planet and didn't find something. And even then, I don't know if I can really say it's
Same
extinct.
as dinosaurs. People say.
Say it again?
Same as dinosaurs. It could be still like
Correct.
small dinosaurs.
Which is why I said if there are no dinosaurs, so they became extinct. Okay, fine. And I'm not against extinction, by the way.
Right.
I'm not against something going extinct. Again, we have the Tachash that did. So if it's no longer serving a purpose, it's doing it. But if it's because we killed them out, I'm not so sure that we have that power to do that. In other words, if Hashem wants them there, they're going to survive. After all, you just need two to survive, male and female. Once that happens,
It was said we killed the buffalo, right?
we still have buffalo, though.
Yeah.
We still have the American buffalo.
What locusts?
They're on the extinct. They're on the endangered list.
Yeah, but
I think
they're
they're
out
off
there.
now.
They're out
I think they're off now. They're off already.
Yeah.
There's a locust species that people say we wiped out, but then they found a little hive, just a really small hive in the Yellowstone Park, just somewhere in the corner. Yellowstone, like, oh, they're still there. Okay.
Okay, that's my point. As long as it's two, it's done. You kept the species alive. So to say we killed everybody off, the seals, we may have done a lot of damage to them. That I won't argue.
Yeah.
But to say extinct, I'm not willing to go that far, since I don't know the entire planet, and neither does everybody else. There's places that we still haven't explored. You were going to ask.
Right. I was saying when you mentioned ram and oh my god.
Antelope.
When you mentioned ram and antelope as being some of the translations, I thought it's not that odd in our history as like shepherds to be able to breed colored sheep.
Oh yeah, Yaakov.
Well, yeah, because we see that Yaakov did that too.
Right, we can
But
breed
sheep,
as
you
well.
would have called it son. You wouldn't have called that tachash.
Right, like some sort of strange offshoot that we bred just for that, or Hashem told us to breed, whatever. Like,
Well, I don't think it was a matter of us breeding it. That's the point.
there's just
It was just there, and then it wasn't. So it went in and out of history. Like
so it wasn't there before. It was there then, or it was obscure.
it could have been there, but it disappeared after. That's all I'm saying. It's
It's no longer here.
It's no longer. That's what they're saying. It's no longer here. It's just like, again, there are other things, like the unicorn is no longer here, regardless of all the lollipops or things you want to bring out. The unicorns aren't here. But again, in the Torah, it seems, or midrashically anyway, that there was something known as a unicorn.
Another an animal that had a single harm. Interesting.
Yeah. So again, I don't know if you hopped around with rainbows and everything else, but a little fantasy to go with that. But it was certainly something there. We also, again, midrashically, you have Atlantis.
Wait,
Atlantis.
We have Atlantis.
Yes. It says that in times of Enosh, 1/3 of the world went underwater because of people were wicked. So the city went underwater.
that wasn't a flood.
No, Atlantis is that it's that surviving.
Right.
I'm not arguing surviving, but I'm saying that you have this place that went underwater.
Before the flood.
Or after the flood.
Enosh.
No, before the flood.
Enosh was the guy.
Before the flood, Enosh was Adam's grandchild. So 1/3 of the world went into the water. But that could be the foundation of the Atlantis myth. Okay, so everything has a foundation. It's just a matter of seeing where it is. But I'm saying in our midrashic literature, we have a lot out there that people just don't know because they don't learn midrashim, or they don't even learn the Rashi, because Rashi brings that one down. But you have to really think. By the way, when I'm learning Rashi, I'm not thinking of Atlantis, because I don't know Atlantis, because I didn't learn Atlantis in yeshiva. It's only when you learn Atlantis And then you see what Rashi's saying. You say, oh, wow, oh, look at that. That could be Atlantis. That could be where they got this from. And it's a lot of things that when you learn the secular world and you see what we're writing, you say, oh, that could be, I'm not saying it is, there could be a connection to here where they came up with that. Okay? So it's interesting. It's a fascinating study when you compare and contrast. It's comparative literature, if nothing else. Okay? And that's why with the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Babylonian flood story, and all the other flood stories out there, and I always said that the unique thing about all the flood stories proves there was a flood. Yeah. Every culture talks about it. Every culture, as a matter of fact, talks about a creation story. They all have a creation story. Sure. Yeah. So where they come up with that, and so on and so forth. So you have all these different, and they're not so far off afield from each other. Mm-hmm. They're off when it comes to how the gods are interacting with us, but they're not so off as how things were in order. Right. Yeah, and that's also an interesting thing. You would think that if I'm coming up with my own story, that I would change a whole bunch of things around, but they don't. So, again, for all the people who are listening out there, I'm sure somebody's going to try to find some story. Don't waste your time. That's I can tell you, don't waste your time on it. But it's do you believe in the story? You don't. It doesn't really affect lives at that point.
I've seen frequently when getting on some of these blogs where the atheists started coming in and started trying to disprove everything in the Bible. That, the creation story in the Bible, that's based upon such and such that we know happened 1,000 years before that.
Correct. And again, my answer to them
they
is...
They don't know the timeline.
No, but my answer to them is, so you agree that there's other creation stories? Yeah. Okay, so we're all agreeing that the world didn't come from nothing. Okay, done. Thank you. Okay, next. Let's go on with life. Because... like I said I always say to people, it doesn't affect my life how it was done. It really doesn't. I trust God, so I'll believe God when we have an Torah. I trust our tradition. So I don't have to say you have an Epic of Gilgamesh, you have all these different things, and it was based upon something else. I admit that the Torah was written after we got out of Egypt. So it's not strange that our old tradition or our stories were written down by some other culture. It's not a strange thing to admit to, right? Just because I wrote it down later doesn't mean that their story was right, wrong, or indifferent. I don't care. What they're doing is showing you there was a creation story. There was a flood story. There was something there that they had to talk about. There would be no reason, by the way, in the world in the biblical world to write about a flood story. Yeah. If you think about it, there's no reason to write about that. I would understand the creation story because you want to say where we came from, but to all agree on a flood story, why?
Yeah, an earthquake, why not? Something else.
It could be anything. And you all blame the same thing. We were, either the gods were against us or we were sinning. What were you going to say?
So you're saying the ones who want to say that there's stuff that pre-exists your Torah about this flood, and that pre-exists about Moses talking about creation. Of course there was.
Of course there was. We have oral traditions.
We didn't write it
That's
down.
The point of oral tradition.
We didn't write it down until...
Right. God didn't tell us to write it down until Sinai. So he told Moshe to write it down. But until then, the story's right there. So somebody wrote it down.
Somebody wrote something down.
And they told it. I mean, the Indians have their old traditions. Everybody's old tradition. So somebody writes it down after a while, for whatever it's because they're going to forget it or whatever else it's going to be. Who cares? But that's my answer to everybody. I don't care that it was written down before. It's irrelevant. The fact is that is out there, which proves that something happened, that people are continuing the story. If we were the first ones to come up with it, you'd have a problem. We come up we wrote the Torah in 2,448, which means for 2,448 years nobody knew about the story, which means it was just made up. Right? Yeah. I'm telling you, there was a flood. There was a creation. There was this, was that, and this is how it happened. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, is it crazy?
Crazy? Where are you coming up with this stupidity? But the fact that they knew it, Except if they would say to us, you changed a couple of the words here and there, and we're saying we have the real story. We got it from the Brunson. Who did you get it from? You got it from us, but you didn't. You forgot. You corrupted the story. Hashem's doing the rewrite.
We all came from the same stock or whatever.
Same person.
Same.
Adam and Eve. Deal with it. Okay? Can't be an explosion. Deal with it. You know, we still have to deal with certain things in our lives anyway. But like I said, that's really, I don't know how we got into that, but it's really what you can say to all the atheists. What is it?
The tachas.
Tachas, there you go. That's really what you can say to everybody. That's why I don't know why people get so upset with all these people. Yeah, who cares? Okay, so then it says Meseo again. I said that. I said Masach Peter all made, and now the screen of the opening of the at the tent of meeting, and furthermore they have to carry Akali Chatzir, the curtains, the outside curtains, Masach Peter Shar Chatzir, and also the screen of the opening of the courtyard, the opening of the courtyard of Shalom Mishkan, Ve'al Mizbech, that is on the Mishkan, the Mizbech, all around, Ve'ed Metrehem, and their ropes, Ve'kol Klei Avodatam, and all their types of work, and all that that is made for them, and they shall serve Al Pi Aharon Uvanav, by the mouth or by the command of Aaron and his children. All of the service of Bnei Gershoni will take place. The Chol Masam for all the carryings, the Chol Avodatam for all their works. And they will be counted, or they will be appointed over their service and all their carryings, all their the entire burden will be theirs. Zot Avodat Mishchol Bnei Gershoni. This is the service of the children of the families of Bnei Gershoni Be'ol Moed, in the Ohel Moed, Mishratam, and again their charge. V'yad Itamar ben Aaron Kohen, and they will be under Itamar, the son of Aaron Kohen. You want to ask something, or
No.
Okay. So that now we go to the next family. Okay, the next family is Bnei Merari, the sons of Merari. And again, you're going to count them, and for the ages again are going to be Ben Shloshim Shana V'Mala, 30 years and upward, until Aviyad Chamishim Shana Tifkedem, until 50 years. You'll count them again, same thing. Kol Abala Sava, all come to service. La'avod Avodat Al Moed. What's their service? Zod Avodat Masam. This is what they have to do. The Kol Avodat Al Moed. They have to carry the Karsha Mishkan, the planks or the wood of the Mishkan, Vrichav, and their bars, Vemudav, and their pillars, V'adonav, and the sockets, V'amudei Chatzir, Saviv, and the pillars of the courtyard all around, of Adneim, and their sockets again, Tirotam, Vemitrehem, their pegs and their ropes, the Chol, Kleihem, all their vessels, Chol Avodatam, for all their work, Mishemot Tifkudu, and the they said the names of that. You should point them. You should point them by names. All the vessels of that they are to carry on their watch. This is what Bnei Merari has to do. And they again are Biyad Itamar ben Aaron Kohen. We've got Moshe v'Aaron, Bnei Kahati. So now Aaron, Moshe, and the princes of the congregation counted Bnei Kahati, and what happened? They came out with the Ben Shloshim Shana V'Mala Ben Chamishim Shana Chlabal Saval Devadim. So their count for their families was Alpayim Shvameot V'Chamishim, 2,750. That's all.
Is that a lot or not?
No,
What?
No, compared to Yehuda's like 6,000 or 7,000.
No, it's like
No.
20, 60.
Who are you talking about?
Yehuda, how much was
Yehuda was 60,000 or something.
60,000. Okay, yeah.
So Bnei Levi is very, very small. In the total count of Bnei Levi, by the way, you had 22,372, I believe. In the entire Levi, that's all you had, 22,000. The famous question is asked, why, if Levium are God's chosen, if you will, they're going to work in the Mishkan, everything else. Why is God's chosen legion so small as compared to everybody else? What happened in Egypt? Yeah,
They weren't expanding.
they weren't.
They weren't suppressed.
They weren't right. They weren't forced to work, and so since they were the teachers of the place, everybody has teachers. They were the teachers, and since they weren't doing hard work, the only ones that the Egyptians forced to do hard labor, they did that in order that they would decrease. And God says, "You say lest they decrease. I say let them increase." So they were having birth of 6 at a time. And they had a population explosion. When it comes to the Levium, they didn't have there was no reason. They weren't enslaved in that manner. Again, they were teachers. So you could say they were enslaved to teaching the kids, I don't know, but they weren't, it wasn't something that was going to end off their people. So they grow at a normal rate. So now, from the 22,000 you had, the ones fit for service are only, in one family alone, is only 2,000 odd. What was it? 2,000, I say 750.
Yeah.
Okay, that was for Kahat. I'm going to cut down to just so you can have the numbers from where is it? For Gershon, if the count was, if you look at Pasuk Mem Dalet, so the count was 3,200. Okay, small again. Then you have where's Bnei Merari? Bnei Merari was 8,580. That's all you had. Okay. Then so that's your count. They all had to do a certain service. By the way, one Merari could not do the service of Gershon. Gershon could not do the service of Kahat. They couldn't change back and forth. They each were given a specific service, and if one did the service of the other one, they could be chayiv to death. So you don't want to get involved in that. Okay?
Rabbi,
Yeah.
does that mean when Mashiach comes, all the tribes have to come together, and then all the tribes will be together in Israel? Is that also all the subsets of the Levium, I guess?
All the sub-families.
Yeah, because are they still around then? All the
The
Levium?
problem with all of the families and the tribes
I know we don't know anyone else.
we don't know who everybody belongs to.
Yehuda but we know Yehuda and Levium.
We know, no, you don't know Yehuda and Levium.
Yes.
You're guessing. In other words, we all know Levi, we all know Kohen.
Okay.
When it comes to you guys,
We don't know.
we don't know who you are.
Okay.
Because what happened was when Nebuchadnezzar exiled the 10 tribes, there's no guarantee that some of these 10 tribes didn't go back to the southern kingdom.
Right.
There's no guarantee about that. Actually, I think there's a Gemara that says some of them did go back, so that we would never be totally bereft of our 12 tribes. But the problem is, when do I care about tribal identity?
When we have our own land.
When I have my land. If I don't have a land, I'm not going to worry about that. So what do I care if I'm Yehuda, if I'm this and that? It doesn't matter. So, and we're all under, what do you call it? A foreign rule. So nobody's, again, it's not worth talking about. So we may indeed have 12 tribes amongst us. I don't know. There's no way to prove one way or another. Some people say they can trace their family to Reuven.
Yeah.
Some people say Yisachar, blah, blah, blah. And they're Jews. That's not, they would be Jews too, who say that they have some, you said, I think it was your story. You said something.
Ploni ben Ploni Reuveni.
Right, so he
called
claimed,
himself when he
right,
was called up.
so he claimed that he was back to Reuven. Fine,
There was a program on TV, one of the Discovery Channel, something like that. It was called, but it was in the days of VHS tape.
Right.
I bought a VHS tape. This guy was he was wearing a fancy, like an American guy, a fancy Yemenite type yarmulke, and it was like an hour or something program without commercials that he went through. He's done world history. Right. He's traced out remnants of people who claim each particular tribal ancestor. He actually was a tribe of Islamic people. I forget which country it was in. That they did a lot of things Jewish. They claim to be religious Muslims, but yet some of the things they did were explicitly Jewish. It's very interesting.
Well, we can't count them. Anyway.
Yeah,
But right, so I'm saying amongst the Jews that we know are Jews, it is again the Kohanim we know, Levim we know. I wouldn't, by the way, even with the Kohanim, Levim, we know only as we give each other the nod, but in other words, we're not, because I'm not taking money out of your pocket yet. But when the time the temple would be rebuilt, you could say to me, you say you're a Kohen and prove it. Why should I pay you versus somebody else, you know? And the same thing with Rabbi Linda. You say you're a Levi, but you want to take money out of my pocket. The rule is Hamochi mechaveru alav haraya. If I want to take money out of your pocket, I have to bring proof that you owe it to me.
Yeah.
So that is a different thing. So right now, everybody just gives me a kavod, we're in harav, hakohen, they let me bench. It costs them nothing to do that. Once it costs them money, then they're going to say, "Oh, let's back off. Okay, we'll have to stop here."
Like the